Hello my beautiful people, welcome to your weekly general tarot with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. So quick note, these readings are for everybody. This is like a general read of the energies, trends and themes that we're likely to be experiencing over the course of the week ahead. I really do apologise. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather at the moment, and so it was a bit too much with the board this week. But it is always nice to do things a little different and to switch things up once in a while. So I've made everything as aesthetically pleasing as I possibly could. I hope that you enjoy all of that. But with that said, before we start, as always, I would like to bless my decks of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance, and I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So the intuitive message this week was really strange and oddly practical. So the message that I got this week was that we need to do things the way that they're supposed to be done. So if you're trying to do something, if you've got a project on, if you're trying to work through something, this is not the week to chop and change and to be all out of sync. This is a week to go from A to B to get to Z. All right, this is not a week for us to start sort of jumping to the end and doing a little bit here and doing a little bit over there. That energy is not going to assist us this week. And interestingly enough, when I got this message, the words that came through were that, but the way that I got it is, you know, when you're opening up a can, and some of them have got that, like, it's like a little key basically, and the message was that the key takes it, you know, it opens the tin or the can in a specific way. If it went from over there to over there to over there to over there, it wouldn't work, would it? Like, there's a sequence to things. And so this week you're being invited to sit with things the way that they are, to follow the process that is set for you and not necessarily by you. It's not always an easy experience and it's not always an easy message. I know, you know, certainly as a young person, oh gosh, yeah, you try telling me that I can't do that and I'll do it just to spite you. You know, I have what I affectionately know as ODD. Some people have OCD. I have ODD, which is obsessive defiance disorder. So that gives you an idea of how I was as a young person. But all jokes aside, this week, keep things in a sequence. Try to keep and it doesn't even have to be logical, it just has to be sequential. That's what you're being asked to do. This is about following the steps. You know, like if you're baking a cake, you don't go straight to putting the icing on, do you? No, you have to go through all the other steps before that. So this is really asking, that's kind of the message for this week. All right, so for our Destiny card, the overarching energy trend or theme for the week ahead, we have the Hermit card. Okay, so this is interesting because the Hermit card is not just about withdrawing from the world, although this is Raph this week, quite clearly. But what I find really interesting about this, in a lot of ways, the Hermit is, it's about wisdom. It's about true wisdom. It's about truly knowing something at the depths. And in order to do that, you have to follow the path ahead of you. When you see the Hermit in this, like, you know, as he is there, but when you see the Hermit in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you can see that he's clearly on a path and he's following the lantern. But that's all, you know, and what happens when you take that kind of journey where you're not sure of everything, where you're not sure of the process, where you're not sure of how things are going to turn out, but there is an understanding there that in order to get to that wisdom, you're going to have to walk the path. And this really, it's interesting because this really resonates with the energy of the intuitive message, right? That you're going to have to walk the path. You're going to have to go from A to B to C and through all of the other letters in order to get to that final end point. And so this week, we're really being asked to exercise or to cultivate some personal inner wisdom, to not even just survey the land, but to map the inner world so that we can walk the path that really is true to what we're trying to achieve or to what we envision our end results to be. And because this card, the Hermit, is ruled by Virgo, This is a powerful, Virgo is all about service. It's all about doing what needs to be done and doing what it says on the tin. And so this week, the overarching energy or trend or theme is really about walking the difficult path. It's about taking stock of the process that you are in and being okay with the fact that in order to get to that end point, you are going to have to exercise wisdom, grit, and you are going to have to do this all in reverence of service in some way, shape or form. So for our direction cards, how might we best utilize this energy? What can we do with it? Or, what do we need to be aware of, let's say? And so we have the 5 of Cups. So there is going to need to be something let go of, right? And sometimes the greatest wisdom that we can really utilize or exercise is the ability to let something go and to allow it to go through its process of release, so allow it to go through its process of death, right? Then we've got the Ace of Swords. Okay, so not an easy one, but we're going to talk about that. This could also be, for some of you, maybe this is something new that you're trying to start and it really isn't the right time. Maybe this is not the right moment for you to be striking off on that new project. Maybe it's not the time for you to be launching that new business. Maybe this is not the week. And the reason I say this is you've got the 5 of Cups, which is the loss, right? It's traditional mourning as well. But you've got the Ace of Swords, which can be a job interview. So for some of you, maybe a job interview isn't happening. For some of you, a new contract isn't going ahead. Something that maybe you thought was going ahead, or something that maybe you thought would have been fine. Now you start to suddenly realize, actually, this isn't going to work. And the reason it isn't going to work is because I'm not fully committed and I don't have all of the information that I need. And all of the information that you actually need is not coming from the external world. It's coming from within. So there's something about us. There's something about us or our internal self this week that we are missing. Something about us that we're not quite seeing the way that we maybe need to. So there's not enough clarity here, which is something that needs to be considered. And then we've got the 10 of Swords. So interestingly enough, there's a few ways that I could read this, especially in terms of the wider world situation. So we see in the peace talks and all the rest of it going on, that's the difficult road ahead. And it's the one that needs to be walked, and it is going to be a process. I do believe that that's going to yield some good results, but then look at this, right? So as a direction, what happens on the ground, I wonder if on the wider world stage, we're going to see one final, I don't want to say hurrah, because there's nothing to celebrate here, but one final, I don't know, especially because I'm doing this literally the day before the new moon, and I called the video for that. If you haven't seen my first ever pure astrology video, check it out, see if you like it, on the Aries new moon, and I called it a surgical new moon. And I see this very much being that kind of energy, and I wonder, and the funny thing is I was actually going to call that video the Aries new moon a surgical strike, and then there was a part of me that was like, Raf, think about what's going on in the world right now. Do you really want to put that energy out there? And so I changed the name to a surgical new moon, because I really feel like it will offer us some sort of healing, but it is going to come with what happens when you're going through a healing journey. If you know anything about it, you know that there's a thing called a healing crisis, and this very much feels like that on the wider world stage. I think we're going to see some last sort of before the whole thing comes to a completion. Now, for us more on a personal level, like I said, some job interviews, some new business, some new contract, some new partnership maybe is not going ahead. With that 10 of Swords, I've got to say, this really is a week where if there's something that you know you're never going to get round to, if there's something that you know has kind of, something that's had its run, this would be a really good week to let it go with grace, to find a way to say, okay, you know what, that's not going to work for me. I haven't got the time, I haven't got the effort. Maybe you don't have the resources, whatever it might be. This is a moment of pure sort of acceptance of, and I say this you know, cautiously, because I don't ever want to put that kind of feeling out there into anybody, but this is a moment to accept a defeat and just say, okay, you know what, maybe this time that thing that I wanted, that I thought I wanted, isn't going to happen, and that's okay. I can allow that to come to an end. I can allow that to be a release point, because I know that once I free up this energy, something else comes in. And I find it really interesting when you think about it, certainly in terms of the numericals. You've got the Ace of Swords and the Ten of Swords. This is something that has seen its final run. This is literally like the alpha and the omega. Yes, you would have the court cards follow the 10, but for me, that's a complete cycle. You've got the ace right through to the 10. That is literally something comes to an end and it's done. It's dead in the water. And this is why I say, you know, what is the wisdom here? To really allow ourselves to release and say, okay, you know what, that's done. It's seen its course. It's probably not going to happen. It is something that I should now let go of. And you know what? Okay, fine. All right, so let's have a look at our insight cards. What might be coming in that we need to be aware of that we aren't necessarily seeing, or could be going on behind the scenes? So we've got the Ace of Cups. This is beautiful, right? So we do have good news coming in. We do have good energy coming in. And more importantly, whatever is coming to an end here, that is a death, but this is a birth, or a rebirth, if you like. I will say I don't think that this is, that we're able to salvage whatever this is. Whatever comes to an end, it comes to an end for a reason. Okay, so this is a moment of pure sort of letting go or release. On top of that, we have the Queen of Cups, which is beautiful. This is about having the guts and the patience and the energy to nourish and nurture love, to nourish and nurture your heart, to nourish and nurture a new desire, right? And this is what happens when we let something that we know isn't working go, or we phase it out. This is where we get new, fresh energy. So in a lot of ways, for, you know, this could be something that we mentally have been tied to for a very long time. And now once we're free of that, it's like the emotional energy can come through in order to create something new. Then on top of that, we've got the Five of Wands. This is a lot of nourishment and care. When it comes to group situations, any and or all conflicts are now having a healing balm or salve put on them, which, you know, very, very interesting. So here's where this also gets really interesting. We've got the Five of Wands and the Five of Cups. 2 fives is a vigil. That speaks directly to that Hermit card. This is a week for you to really pay attention to where your path feels like it's pulling you. And more importantly, to ask yourself, once you've got that information, once you understand, okay, you know what, I feel like my path is pulling me towards this. Once you have that understanding, then it's a time for you to ask yourself, what is the next logical step in the sequence? What would come next after this? If it was in perfect harmony and perfect sync, what would the next logical step be here? It's like in music, right? You know, when you hear like a nice tone, and then and then it's the next note, and then it's the next note. There's certain sequences that flow. But if it's discordant, it kind of chucks us out of, you know, we're like, oh no, that doesn't sound as nice. This is really a week to find the harmony, I believe. Then we've got 2 aces. Now 2 aces can represent trickery, but it could just as easily represent the end of one thing and the beginning or the birth of something new. And I'm holding out for the latter. So I really, really like this. As the insight cards as well, this could be a great week for finding new groups, new troops, or nurturing new hobbies. Anything that's going to tap us back into our personal flow of creativity. This could also be a week on a sort of really practical level where a Queen of Cups, so a water sign woman, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, might feature for you or play an assistive role, which is really nice. I mean, if I had to put in the, you know, the challenge or the thing to possibly watch out for, because you've got the 2 fives, this is really paying attention to what you're doing. Because you've got the 2 aces, which can be trickery, I would say this would be a good week to really think about who your competitors are and what they are prepared to do. Just because you're not prepared to use underhand tactics to get what you want or to get where you want, doesn't mean that your competitors won't. So this is a good week to really be honest about who you are surrounded by or linked to through the things that you're trying to create or bring into the world. But on a brighter note, I actually really like that because it feels like the healing balm or salve that we need. And I am currently waiting on a salve that I ordered, which I'm very excited to have. So with that said, I really hope this serves you well. I hope you like the temporary setup. It may be around for a couple of weeks more yet. We'll just have to see. But with that said, I wish you all an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll see you soon.